everyone, and welcome back to Here Be Dragons. I am your host, as always, Stephen Stark, and joining me this week for another I Know That Nerd is none other than Cecilia herself from Geeksterilia, a,
Hi there.
a many-time contributor on the channel, been a collaborator with us a few times here. We really appreciate it. So, hola y bienvenidos, Cecilia. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I didn't feel great this week. I got my first shot Monday, and
Mm,
it took a toll on me, but I'm doing pretty well now.
yeah, my sister got her shot this week as well, but she did pretty good, pretty cool. She only just felt a little um, sick a couple of days, but then she was okay.
That's about where I was at. Like I didn't
Mhm.
miss work or anything, but I just felt like crappy for a few days, and but I feel pretty good now. Played some D&D earlier. People are saying how beautiful my hair is. Thank you, thank you. You guys are
Yeah.
obviously the true gem here. So Cecilia, you've been on the channel a couple of times now,
Hmm.
um, and it went back all the way back to Coco, which
Yeah.
was something outside what I normally do on this channel. But like, I'm so glad we did it because I got to meet another great content creator, and yeah, I've been on your channel a couple of times.
Mhm.
You're you're doing the English language thing a little bit over there, which I'm very proud of you. You've had some good
Thanks.
guests so far, if I do say so myself. Couple of my fandom friends have been over there. But yeah, so this is I Know That Nerd. Most of you probably know what this is, but if you don't, it's an unscripted conversation between two nerds for about 2 hours where Cecilia, I kind of know you, kind of, but like I don't know you,
Hmm.
and I'm looking forward to filling in some of the gaps. So let's start with I pretty much always ask the same question off the bat, and that is, when did you know that you were a nerd?
Oh my. That's a tough question, but I think I know the answer. And the answer is that I was privileged with I don't know I don't know exactly know how to say it, but I learned on my own to read at a very young age.
You
And
taught yourself to read?
I did, yes. And this is
Oh
because
wow.
I am the youngest of three siblings, but my two siblings are 8 and 9 years older than me. So I usually used to see them, do their homework and that kind of stuff. And I have a very curious nature, and that's pretty much what motivated me to learn how to read. And the way that I taught myself how to do it is because I've always liked to draw and paint.
Okay.
And yeah, I usually started drawing stuff on a little blackboard that my mom bought me. And I asked my siblings, my older siblings, okay, well, what's the letter for what's the M of for mariposa, for example, for
Mhm.
butterfly, the B for butterfly, and they taught me how to do it. And I began to relate the sounds to with the letters.
Right.
And by the time I got to elementary school, I already knew how to read, how to write, and how to add and subtract. So I pretty much knew everything you learn during first grade here in Mexico. And well, that pretty much told me that I was not your normal kid around
Right.
the block.
Was that the thing that made you go, I'm a nerd? Or was
Oh,
there
I yeah. Well, like I was saying, I believe my siblings had a lot to do with that because, well, I usually saw what they saw, I listened what they listened, and I liked it. And sometimes I was a little kid on school that knew stuff about musical theater. that
Okay.
obviously no 6-year-old does. I saw Cats when I was I don't know, about 7 or 8 years old, and I loved every song. So I was pretty much a Broadway nerd when at a very young age. And one of the things that I made me realize that I was going to have a big love for reading and that sort of stuff is that, well, I usually saw my mom reading a lot, and and that made me very curious why she spent so much time in a book with her nose in a book. And I started asking my mom to buy me some book to read, like she did. And she grabbed a book from the shelf, a very old book from the shelf, and she gave it to me, and it was Little Women.
Oh, well, I mean, that's a good way to start.
Yeah, and
Was it in
well,
English?
no, it was in
Right,
Spanish.
right, right.
A Spanish translation, Mujercitas. And well, I read that about when I was about like 7 years old, when my other fellow, well, my friends of my age were barely even learning how to read. I was already reading novels.
Oh,
I admit that some of the things that I read back in that first time that I read that book, I didn't understand everything that I was reading,
sure.
right? But it took me a couple of rereads more to actually understand what was going on. And I immediately identified myself with Jo March, because I was not a girly girl when I was a
Okay.
young when I was a young girl. So I saw myself on her, and yeah. Oh, my favorite cat song.
Yeah, Dan's got a great question for you.
Yeah. Well, I have two. The first one is obviously the overture, the Jellicle Cats and and that stuff. And the other one is Memories. The other
I
one is
mean,
Memories. Yeah.
everybody knows that song.
Everybody does, yes. And the other musical that I loved when I was growing up was Jesus Christ Superstar.
Ooh, I
Hmm.
love that show.
Hmm.
Like, I'm old and I haven't kept up my voice practice, but back when I was doing singing all the time, I
Uh-huh.
wanted to play Judas in Jesus Christ Superstar so bad.
Ooh. Oh, fun fact for those who don't know, the original Jesus was one of the vocalists from Deep Purple, I believe. One of those bands. I don't remember which band, but it was a famous band, and that was pretty fun to learn. And also, well, back to the question, to when I realized that I was a nerd. It was during my middle school years. I really got hooked with Sailor Moon,
Okay, anime.
uh-huh, anime, and well, at that age, most of the other girls weren't watching cartoons anymore. So it was uncool to watch cartoons.
Right.
And I have a very special love for Sailor Moon, because she was the one that taught me how to draw properly. She taught me my love for drawing, and she connected me to other girl nerds like me. And so,
Right.
yeah,
So that's where you also got that first sense of nerd community from.
yeah, yeah. And it was not very common at that time to find people with your same interests here. Um, I didn't know many people who watched anime, except for that tiny little bunch of girls, of nerdy girls. But once I got These girls disappeared during my high school years.
Right.
We went to different schools. Here in Mexico, it's not like that you stay in the same. All the kids go to the same schools every time because they live in the same area. This is, and in Mexico here is a little different. You go to the school that you want to go in anywhere in the city. And yeah, well, all my friends went to different schools that I did. And during my high school years, I lost contact with people like that. And well, I pretty much took solace on books, especially Lord of the Rings.
Oh
And
man. Yeah.
yeah,
So like you just went from nerdy to nerdy to nerdy at that point, didn't you?
yeah, and it was pretty solitary because uh, not many people. Well, the school that I went when I was in high school was a school that it was majorly populated by kids that come from a background that is different from mine. I, you could say that I'm a middle class girl, middle or upper middle class girl in Mexico. But I went to a school that was near to my house back in the day. That most of the kids weren't uh,
Right.
were lower to middle class. So not many of them knew a lot of the or had any contact with the stuff that I had. I mean, I had already gone to. I was already on the internet back at that time, googling bands um, and other nerdy content, and I felt pretty lonely back then because not everybody. I didn't know many people who got
Right.
who right.
Having done I know that nerd with I don't know 20 different people now,
Mhm.
at this point that just sounds like a common experience for
Mhm.
most of us where we have that thing where we're like I love this thing and maybe there's a few people that love it with you but like you feel isolated a lot of times.
Mhm. Yeah, and also at that time I grew up in a Catholic environment, so my parents are super Catholic, super conservative. My dad is even a deacon, a permanent deacon, and well, that was my life back then. And I went to church and I met a lot of people, but none of them had any love for nerdy stuff. So I was always the outsider, right? I always felt the outsider everywhere I went because of this. And that was up until I ended up in college. That's when I
Okay.
found that's when where I found my crew, right? That's where I found people who liked the things that I liked and had contact with people with similar interests. So it was very it was very good for me, and I felt immediately connected to these people.
Right, are you still close with some of those people?
With some of them, yeah. Well, of course, life
Sure, sure, we're
life
adults.
happens. Yeah, life happens, and you don't see them as often as you saw them back then. But here we are, and some of them have been guests on my show, and
Sweet.
yeah, and actually, the the peculiar thing here is that a tiny group of people in college led me to another group with of people that went to different universities that like
Hmm.
things. And actually those are the ones that I connected the most because they came from very similar backgrounds that I came. uh, and well, it was pretty cool. It was pretty refreshing. Actually last Friday, one of them was my guests, we were talking about Atypical, the series on Netflix, and she's a friend from back then.
Okay.
Hmm.
Very cool. Well,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I mean, everybody's story is unique, but it seems like most of the nerds that I know, and I know that nerd, have 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 a lot of parallel things in
Hmm.
their lives. There's this moment where you have this realization of, I love this thing in a way that people don't love things.
Uh-huh.
Like being a nerd isn't about what you love; it's about how you love it.
Hmm.
With that obsessiveness and that desire to dig deeper and deeper and learn all you can.
Yeah.
And like we have this moment where we realize, oh, that describes me. Then we have other moments where we're like, because I identify this way, I don't fit in with that group. Then you find the group and you're like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to me.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
it sounds like that's pretty much your journey as well. And it started with Sailor Moon, really, huh?
It started with Sailor Moon, yes.
Okay, so what was it about Sailor Moon that got you, do you think?
Oh, well, before Sailor Moon, there was Saint Seiya. In Spanish, it's better known as Caballeros del Zodiaco, and which was an anime about these warriors that had to save the world by saving the goddess that guarded them, that was sacrificing herself in order to save the world from said evil, right?
Right.
And these guys, well, the story is very dramatic for these warriors, and but they were men. And this was the kind of the hero journey is something that is very appealing for me. I don't know why, because I don't have a hero complex.
If
But
you are, forgive the English expression, but you are preaching at the choir here. I
Mhm.
love the hero's journey. I love hero stories. I just do.
Uh-huh. And so this was a hero story, but it was all guys. And when Sailor Moon came, it was game changing for me because they were women and they were just as badass as these other guys.
And they
And
look great doing it too.
yeah. Yeah, that's certainly very important too. And well, the whole story, the diversity that it showed, it was pretty cool to see, to watch. And if you are Spanish speakers and you're interested in my Sailor Moon episode, I actually did an episode on Sailor Moon, but it was focused on the LGBT representation.
Okay.
And that was actually my first ever contact with the LGBT world, and it changed forever the way that I see that, growing up in a Catholic environment where that is pretty much considered something bad. So
Right.
that was the thing that showed me that it was not as I was told, and I appreciate that a lot because, well, I'm an ally. What can I say? I'm an
Right. Right. Me,
ally.
like, this is why I was so happy to have you come back time and time again, because I mean, I'm an ally too.
Hmm.
Uh, John and I just a few days ago did a stream on Nessie's channel, The Unspun Yarn, about toxic masculinity,
Hmm.
and there's a few times in there where I'm stumbling over my words because I'm trying to say what I really mean. Sometimes we're talking about toxic masculinity, and I start referring to women, and I'm like, what I'm really referring to is non-men,
Hmm.
non-cishet men, you know.
Hmm.
Uh, but yeah, that's why I think I've enjoyed working with you so much. Like, I think our ideals and our ethics and our morality line up very well as like the nerdy stuff too,
Yeah.
which is,
Yeah. I agree.
yeah, like Star Wars. I know you're a big Star Wars fan.
Mhm.
We've talked about your love of Diego Luna, and
Yeah.
and I know it's really Pedro that's your big crush, but
Yeah,
like
actually, sorry, actually, Diego is more like a brotherly love, some kind of
okay,
brother. I don't personally know him. I
sure,
let's just say that I am a second degree with him, but I don't know him, and he's not
right.
my friend. But that's the kind of love that I have for him. I don't
I,
know.
that's the kind of love I had for Carrie Fisher,
Yeah.
like a sister.
Hmm.
So I
Yeah,
get
yeah.
it, but
Hmm.
and I know you got the Pedro Pascal love.
Ooh, no, I love him. I
Do you
truly
remember,
love.
do you remember seeing him on Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
I don't. I didn't even realize that he was on it until I started googling stuff about Pedro, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, he was in Buffy." And Buffy was another example of my nerdy, I'm nerdy likes because not. I mean, I'm talking about. I grew up with people with that mostly watch telenovelas, and I never liked telenovelas. I never ever liked. I would be a liar if I tell you that I never saw one because I have. There are some good stories out there, but I just didn't feel connected with that. And yeah, I know. No, no, I don't love Pedro as a brother as I love Diego, but yeah. Uh,
So Aaron's ready to go right in there
Go
and be like,
ahead. You have
fine.
my blessing, Aaron. You have my blessing, Aaron. But yeah, I didn't feel connected with this, and most girls that I knew back then, well, they were the type of girls that watched the novelas, and they were the type of girls that did like to, makeup and dress well and that sort of stuff. That I have to say that it took me a while, it took me years to realize that that isn't bad because back in the day I did what I was like, no, I'm different than other girls and blah blah blah, but
I mean, it's fine to be
yeah.
different, but it's also fine to be like that if you're
Uh-huh.
your genuine self when you do it.
Exactly. And that I have to be honest, I was a little arrogant back then because of that. I misjudged these girls as superficial because of what they liked, and that they were more in tune with the herd. But it took me years to realize that maybe, that it is okay to be like that. Also, there's nothing wrong with being feminine. There's nothing wrong with liking telenovelas. There's nothing wrong with whatsoever. Is as long as you are true to yourself. But it's a journey, right?
Right, and
And
I'm imagining that's high school age, where of course, what are you wearing, what are you watching, what bands you
Mhm.
listen to, all of that is so important when you're a teenager, and
Yes.
then you
Uh-huh.
leave high school and you're like, oh, none of that actually mattered at all.
Uh-huh. Exactly. It was a long journey, but I finally got here to the place where I don't care.
Right, where you're happy to be yourself and happy to let somebody else be themselves. It's a
Yes.
great journey too. It's a great one to go on. I'm still on it
Yeah.
myself, you know.
Okay, Amy is saying here that I'm making her cry a bit. Why is that?
I
Well,
don't know. Why are you crying, Amy?
why are you crying, Amy? I'm not. I didn't mean to make you cry.
It's all right.
But yeah. But
I,
yeah.
I'll make her cry next time we play D&D, and then you won't have to feel so bad. I'll be like, I did it too.
You know what? Speaking of D&D, uh, some guy that I dated back when I was in college, I think he was the one who ruined it for me.
You who ruined it for you?
No, he ruined it for me. Yeah, and it made me not want to cross that path. But now I
Oh,
realize, but now I realize that it was probably because of him. Not, no, it didn't have to do anything with the
right.
actual game. But yeah. So
Well,
yeah,
I mean, I'm not gonna poke that bear. That sounds like an unpleasant memory.
it somewhat is. I mean, it was. I don't know. I don't know. I don't want to get into details, but it was
That's
not
fine.
a good.
Like that's
But it
fine.
was not. It was not a good relationship. But it was
Yeah,
more
we've
on
all
my
had
part.
them.
But it was more on my part than it was on him.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's very mature of you to accept your
Yeah.
part in it. I could probably say the exact same thing. I will say this: give D&D a chance. I'm almost like a drug dealer when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons. I'm like, yeah, I'll get you hooked.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Thanks. Oh, I'm watching. I'm actually watching my husband right there.
oh,
Say hi
is
to
that Leonard
Leonardo.
Lopez? Leonardo
Yeah, and
Lopez.
he was like, yeah. This is a
Hola,
guy that I
Leonardo.
this is a guy that I did in college, and I have to say about Leonardo that I am the luckiest of women of meeting him, because he's another nerd. He is another nerd, a huge kind of nerd, and but he's a musical nerd, and
Mm.
I do share with him that love for music. We met because we both love the Beatles, and we met because a friend that we have in common, invited me to be a chorist and a tribute band for the Beatles. I mean, and I met him there. He was the guitar. Was one of the guitar players, and uh, it was very hilarious actually the day that we met, because I got late to the rehearsal because I was working. So I went there and I entered the place really rushed, and I saw him playing. He was playing the solo of I Want You, She's So Heavy. And he saw me, and he saw me, he made this face, and he immediately turned and he immediately up, took his height away from me, and I left because I realized that he saw me and he liked me.
That's a
uh,
we in the movie making industry we call that a meet cute.
uh-huh. Actually,
That
that's
is
a,
kind of adorable.
it is, and he is adorable. He's the most wonderful guy I've ever met. That's the reason why I married him. and and yeah, we shared a love for music, and we ended up doing musical projects together. And here we are with two kids.
Living the life, living the dream.
Yeah. Hmm.
Very cool. Well, that's nice to hear. I want you to answer a guilty Undertaker's question though. What is your favorite obscure Beatles track?
Well, that depends. Define obscure.
Right.
Hmm.
I guess you know what you define obscure because I have an answer for this too. Because the Beatles are like my maybe number two band of all time. I think it's Queen
Hmm.
and the Beatles.
Well, the Beatles will be my first. Would be my
Okay.
first love. Um, actually, that's another one of the things that made me realize that I was not a common girl. When I was in middle school, I was already a fan of the Beatles. But one of the days that I invited some of my classmates to my house, they were asking me to put some music, and I I played the Beatles, and they were like, "Why? Why are you playing the Beatles? That is so awful. That is so old, and you're not cool for this." And I was like, "Okay." And then years later, I ran into one of those girls that told me that with on college with a T-shirt of the Beatles, and I was like, "What?" she was wearing a Beatles T-shirt, and I was like, as far as I knew, you said that wasn't cool, but okay. I guess we can all change our minds, right?
Sure.
But yeah,
I mean, let's be clear. The Beatles are my parents' music, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And there was a pretty long stretch of time where I was like, that's old people music. The Beatles is old people music. And maybe that's actually true because I'm old people now. But like there came a point where somewhere in my 20s where I went, you know what, I can just like whatever music I want to like, whatever sounds good to me. And yeah, I love the Beatles. So do you have a favorite song that's like not a number one?
Yeah, actually, read on the comments, and Leo is going on point. He says Cecilia will likely say it's a George Harrison song, and
Okay.
yes, indeed, George Harrison is actually my favorite Beatle, and my favorite song from him is not actually of the Beatles. It's from his All Things Must Pass album, and is precisely that song, All Things Must Pass. And well, I love George Harrison. He, well, I of course I love John and Paul, but George has a special sensitivity that the other Beatles don't have, and it's I believe it has to do with his spiritual journey that
Okay.
I somehow connect. Um, but yeah, I really have a special love for George, and one of my favorite, well, my favorite song is "All Things Must Pass," and my
Yeah, but that's okay. I'm going to get you on a technicality. That's not a
uh-huh.
Beatles song.
It's not a Beatles song, but well, if we are strict with the Beatles song, I would say it's oh my god, I have three on my mind and I can decide. Let's just say that it's something.
Okay. For me,
Mhm.
I think that's Maxwell Silverhammer. That song
Mhm.
is so stupid. I love it.
That's actually the song from that album that makes me wonder why is in that album.
I mean, it's weird for sure.
Yeah, I mean the whole album is has shares this concept, the all the songs, but that one song is like the one that stands out for being the one that is that shouldn't be there.
It doesn't fit the theme.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the theme. But yeah, another song is uh well, I have
Yeah, we
I
could
could
talk all day about it, but you know what?
yeah,
That's fine.
yeah.
So I've only known you for maybe about 6 months now
Mhm.
since we
Yeah.
did the Coco stream. But in that time, you have become a monument to my religion. Okay. I have converted you to my new religion,
Oh yeah, The Expanse.
which is, of course, The
The
Expanse.
Expanse. Yeah.
Everybody knows how much I love that show. It's like my favorite thing on TV right now, and has been since I started watching it. Um, and I got you to finally watch it, and
Mm-hmm.
you're now doing Expanse content on your channel. I think you really should do some Spanish language Expanse stuff on your channel or more.
Yeah.
So having, I know a lot of the people here were probably watched those streams as well, but you know what? I'm going to talk about the Expanse as a good excuse to. So,
Mhm.
who after 5 seasons, who's your favorite character? Do you think?
After 5 seasons, it remains to be Christiana Basarala.
That's a fantastic answer.
Yeah, yeah,
It,
and
it,
I
it's the
got her
wrong
to
answer.
like a tweet.
It's the wrong answer, but it's a good one.
Yeah, I know. Well, very close is Amos.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
probably just the opposite, like Amos Christian. But yeah, I
Well,
and I get it. What like what a powerful female character and a not white woman in one of the highest positions of power, owning every room she walks into, but
Mm-hmm.
not through traditionally masculine qualities. Like
Mm-hmm.
her wardrobe is as much a part of her character
Oof, oof.
as her
Don't.
ability to shout someone down, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. I really do. She was my favorite character for a while until Amos kind of like overtook her. But um, so what is there a one thing that you could point to and like this is the reason, or is it just Shore in all of her glory?
Well, there are many reasons. One of those, you already stated them, that she is very strong female character that doesn't, well, she doesn't know how to fight.
Right.
And that is one of the constant tropes that I found now that with feminism and this, that usually they try to portray women by being women being strong by being able to kick ass. And there are many ways for being strong. And Christian Avasarala is one great example of this because she is not able to fight, but she is very powerful still. And she is powerful because she is incredibly smart. She is incredibly self confident to the point that she's able to just say to powerful men to shut the fuck up. So I'm sorry for the
And
F bomb.
hey,
But
you're
yeah,
fine. And charismatic while she's doing it.
yeah. I mean that line where she was asking Bobby to describe what she lived in, which moon was it?
It was on Ganymede.
Ganymede, yeah, Ganymede. The monster that she saw in Ganymede, and someone asked her, "What does this have to do with this?" And it is whatever the goddamn like. She said, What's the point with this?" And she's whatever the fuck, whatever the god I got them like.
Yeah.
That is one of the that
Just
is one of the most representative phrases of her.
oh yeah, it's perfect. It's flawless because not just the words, but the tone in her voice, the
Mhm.
half smile on her face, like she's enjoying shutting this guy down in the moment too.
Yeah, and she's bragging that she has the power, that she has the upper hand here. And I love that. And I love that about her. I mean, yes, she has flaws,
Sure.
and those flaws have to do with the fact that she's incredibly arrogant, but she makes things work, and she doesn't hesitate to just speak her mind. And that is something that I really appreciate, and that also reflects in her wardrobe. She's bold. I mean, she wears those huge pieces of jewelry that you may say somebody may say that they are a little bit exaggerated,
Right.
but
In America, we might call them gaudy.
yeah, but it's a statement. Her wardrobe is a statement of power, and I love that. And well, speaking of my second favorite character, that is, I wouldn't say it's second because it's very very close up
Yeah, there's a
with
lot of great characters. I'm messing with you. You don't have to rank them all.
Yeah, I mean he's very close there with Christian. Is Amos, of course.
Right.
Our lovely murder snuggles.
Murder Snuggles.
Murder snuggles. And oh my god.
How does
Uh,
Leonardo react to that?
to me loving Amos.
Yeah. Or to you
Well,
loving, say, Pedro Pascal?
oh, he knows that I love Pedro. And the other day he joked about it because I'm not a huge fan of exercising. It's one of the things that I try and I try and I try and I just don't find any love for it. And the other day, my husband said that Leo said that we should buy a treadmill, and that he would put a huge photo of Pedro Pascal right in front. So, and about
So
Amos,
he takes it well, is what you're telling me.
yeah, he takes it well. He's
Good
not
on you,
jealous.
Leo. Can I call you Leo?
Yes, you
You're
can.
not, you're not here to tell me I can't. So
Yeah. No, yeah, you can. You can. And if you meet him in person, you're totally gonna love him.
yeah, I'm sure. I'm
Mhm.
sure. Like
And
if I'm ever in Mexico, I'm looking you up.
yeah, you are welcome here, and pretty much
Cool.
every single one of you that is watching. And well, about Amos, well, I don't actually like him that much physically. It's not. I actually like the character. That's what I
Yes.
love, the character. And I mean, a guy like that has suffered so much on life and still wants to be a good person is very appealing to me. Um, and that's one of the reasons that I really really love the character. And another one is that, well, he doesn't have a filter. He just says things the way he thinks, and I like that about him as well, because, well, for a long time I was like that. I mean, not the part that had suffered a lot in life, but the part
Right.
that it was overly overly sincere. And well, it took me a while to learn how to communicate with people in a more empathetic way.
Okay.
But I see that about him, and I feel it. I feel it in my heart because I know that I was like him.
Yeah. Well, again, like, Murder Snuggles, and he is a handsome man, and he is got a
He
really
is.
nice physique. But
Hmm.
like the thing that makes that character so great to watch, thinking about his brain, not his
Hmm.
muscle.
Yeah.
So I'm with you on that. Like, it's a very interesting psychology in that character. Okay,
Yeah.
we can talk about The Expanse as much as you want because God knows I love that show, but I think we
Mhm.
still got a lot of ground to cover. So, and actually, there was a Sailor Moon question I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
Is there a Sailor Scout that was like, that's me?
Yes, Sailor Neptune.
Okay, forgive
Mhm.
my absolute ignorance of Sailor Moon. I never watched it. But
Okay. Hmm.
Sailor Neptune, tell me
Sailor
about Sailor
Neptune.
Neptune.
Well, she's an artsy girl, and she played the violin. She's very beautiful. And well, it's not that I'm saying that I'm beautiful, but
All
it's
right,
just that I'm
we will
saying that.
all acknowledge that you are aesthetically pleasing, Cecilia. Let's,
Thank you. Well,
yeah,
thank you. But well, back in the day, I was not as much. I was pretty much. I don't know if you have watched it, but it's a Colombian telenovela that is called Betty la Fea. Well, if you Google it, you'll understand why. But I identified with her because she was very artsy. She was very she she played the violin. I don't play the violin, but I have a love for music. But the one thing that I didn't have in common with her is that I'm not lesbian, but and she is. But like I said, this was my Sailor Moon was my first contact with LGBT people, and for someone who grew up uh, with the information that having a diverse sexuality is wrong, she told me something. She told me otherwise,
right.
and that's why I appreciate her
That,
so much.
and that's huge,
Hmm.
honestly.
Hmm. And also the other character that I identified a little bit with was Sailor Mercury because she was the nerdy one. but I didn't fully fit on the description, right? Because even though I'm an introvert, I'm not shy. Uh, People often think that introverts are shy, and that's not necessarily true. And and this is why I was not fully Sailor Mercury.
Right. Like shy is not the same thing as introverted. Is not the
Uh-huh.
same thing as social anxiety. Is not. Yeah. Like they can look the same to the outside, but it's about what's going on underneath, behind
Hmm.
the eyes, in the brain. That's really different.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's the reason why I couldn't fully identify with her. And when Sailor Neptune came into the screen, I was like, "Oh my God, this girl is so awesome! Is so awesome. She's an amazing violin player. She's a badass Sailor Scout,
Right. She's a
and
magical girl.
hmm
Like,
yeah,
what's not to love? I get it. I just, not being familiar with the source material, I thought I'd ask for a little bit more clarification
mhm,
because my love of Luke Skywalker is well documented, um,
mhm,
but and I could probably talk all day about how that has influenced me throughout different stages of my life, and like I am sure that there are times where Sailor Neptune has informed who you are, has caused you to behave differently than you
mhm,
would have without knowing her.
mhm, and actually, if I'm being honest, that is pretty much the reason why I started to question my faith, because when I went to college, that was the first time that I had real contact with people from the LGBT community. And well, what I saw on them was not at all what I was informed during my
Yeah, I
life.
mean, I'm
Mm.
not going to turn this into a religion stream, but I understand
Mhm.
how
Yeah.
I understand how, we'll just say, ultra conservative religious people can sometimes have that viewpoint. Like,
Yeah.
again, my mother is in the chat. She is a devout
Hmm.
Christian, but she is one of the least judgmental people I've ever met in my life. She loves you no matter if you're black, white, brown, purple, polka dotted man, woman, any gender in between. Doesn't judge people based on who they fall in love with. So it is doable,
Yeah.
but you are right. Like the Catholic Church as an entity does tend to say those things are bad.
Hmm. And well, with this, so many other stuff, right? And I ended up getting apart from it. But I still love and respect the people that still follow the faith. Well, for example, my parents, and I don't have a bad relationship with them because of this. Sure, my mom was concerned about my me me stepping away from the Catholic Church, but and she even started to blame a little bit my husband for that. But this didn't have anything at all with this didn't have anything to do at all with him. It was a personal uh, questioning that I happened to beginning have during my college years, and it was pretty much the spark of it. And this is why Sailor Moon has a huge impact in my life, because it not only showed me my love for art, it actually made me it actually made me who I am right now, and I love it for because of it.
And I love it too because like you've been a pretty awesome person to get to know in the context of we've worked together a few times on our channels, and it's
Hmm.
been it's been a lot of fun every time. Like I often feel like Geeksterilia is doing what Here Be Dragons does, but just in Spanish.
Yeah,
You're
pretty
just like,
much.
I'm picking a nerdy topic this week. I'm finding a guest, and we're having a nerdy conversation for a couple hours about whatever topic I want. And
Hmm.
who am and now you don't do live stream though, do you?
I do. I
I
do
mean, you
live
do
streams.
now, but you only started doing live stream recently. Is that right?
Yes, and this is because, well, I'm a mom.
Right.
I'm a mom, and edition takes a lot of time, and that's the way that I started actually doing content, doing nerdy content. I started reviewing Game of Thrones,
Mm-hmm.
uh, like pretty much all of you started out, and but I actually started editing videos in a very, some say that it was hilarious. I didn't mean to be super comical about them, but some people st- at least once told me that they found them super hilarious. So
Right.
because I pretty much did a recap. I pretty much did recaps from the episodes, but told in a way that are very and a rapid, um, very, I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to describe it, but in a fun way. In a fun way.
Okay.
Let's just
Fun
say
ways
like
always good.
let's just say that it was fun. So, but those editions actually took a lot of time for me, and that's time that I was
That's why
taking away
live
from my
streaming is
kids and
better.
my husband. What?
That's why live streaming is better. You get on, you talk, you turn it off, no editing, none of that. You're like, yeah, that's why it's better. Amy's got a great question. How did you come up with the name Geeksterilia?
Oh, well, as I was saying, I do share a love with for music, and for a long time, uh, especially my college years, some people would describe me as a hipster. So I'm a geek, and I'm a hipster, and so that's
Geekster.
why the geekster. And the Ilia part comes from my name, Cecilia.
Okay. I
Mhm.
mean, like, there you have it, folks. I thought it was going to be maybe more complicated than that, but no. You're a geek, you're a hipster, and you're Cecilia. Makes sense.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'd love to see Game of Thrones remakes. Oh my goodness. Prepare for a lot of drama.
I mean, that show's got a
And
lot of drama anyway, but
yeah, but over complicated drama with a lot of people walking away from other people while still talking to them. And I don't know, people getting run over by some horses, and I don't know, a lot of drama.
yeah, a lot of like really over the top reaction shots too.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yes,
And
crushed by pearls. Yeah.
and that's actually one of the reasons that I don't like telenovelas, because they feel unreal. They don't feel like something that actual people would live. And I don't know, I just get, many people would say, well, yeah, but
Well,
dragons and stuff like that is not
exactly,
something that people would
exactly.
yeah, but underneath, if you take away the fantasy, if you take away the technology, the high technology part, if you still find good human drama, then it's a good story. Then it's relatable. And telenovelas, for that reason, are not exactly relatable because they're just stupid. Most of the times, there are some good
Okay.
ones.
I mean, you
There,
are free to do what you want, but like you're crapping on telenovelas. We're going to lose part of our audience that loves them.
probably yes, but and I'm sorry for that. But yeah, well, it's just something that I don't relate to. Yeah, and there are pretty. Some are pretty. Some of the situations are pretty unbelievable.
I
uh,
think Jess nailed it. a real
Mm-hmm.
story set in a fake world, not a fake story set in our real world. I think that.
Yes, yes, exactly.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Jess. That was
Hmm.
very eloquent.
Yeah. I to be honest, I didn't know how to describe it, but she just nailed it.
Yep. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm with you. That's why I splashed it up on the screen. I'm not above stealing a good idea from somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
That's how society grows. That's how good jokes get passed around.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Well, Cecilia, we've been going for about an hour. So what do you say we hit the mid roll and
Okay.
tell everybody, hey, remember to like and subscribe if you haven't. I would appreciate it. I know most of the people that are here live are already subscribed, but if you're not, thank you very much for watching this later. Please subscribe. We do these live streams at 6 p.m. every Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah.
Um, and we just have different nerdy topics every week. Join us next week for season 3 of Star Wars: The Clone Wars animated series. We've been
Ooh.
slowly, once every few months, tackling a season. And next week we're on to season 3. And I've got stuff on the schedule after that, but I'm not looking that far ahead. We'll say episode 100 is coming up, and you will have the opportunity. If you are here live, it's only going to be for live watchers, but we will be giving away a lot of swag.
Woo.
We're giving away a 3-pack of movies starring Keira Knightley. You can guess who's donating that.
Oh yeah, I know.
Um, I've got $100 gift card to San Rixian's Threadless shop to give away. And then Nessie managed to scrounge up a whole ticket for Con of Thrones in Orlando.
Ooh.
We'll be giving away all 3 of those during episode 100, but only for people who are here live to watch it. That will be May 2nd, I believe. May 2nd at 6 p.m. Eastern. So yeah, that's that. Also, a couple weeks ago, we did the social anxiety and fandom engagement stream. I'm really proud of how that one turned out. So
Yeah.
if you haven't watched that, please go back and watch that one. I think it's one of the more important videos on the whole channel. And I also want to plug again the stream I just did last Thursday on the Unspun Yarn, where we talked about toxic masculinity. And it was a hell of a stream, and I had a lot of fun digging into that. So I've plugged my stuff. Cecilia, what's coming up on Geeksterilia?
Okay, so the most recent episode that I did was which was this last Friday was about the, like I mentioned before, about the series Atypical, which is about a guy who was diagnosed with autistic syndrome. Uh, and well, we discussed the series from the point of view of a psychologist and a medic. But the medic and both of these women are in contact with people with this condition. In fact, one of them actually does have the condition, and one of them is she has the condition, and she's a mother of a child that who is neurodivergent.
Mm-hmm.
And my psychologist friend who was on the show, she is an aunt of two kids with this condition, and so their insight was very, very interesting. And it was a very interesting show. So if you speak Spanish, you can watch it, or you're just plain curious about it, but you're welcome to watch it. And I do have an announcement. I do have the announcement that I soon will be subtitling my Spanish content, so you can enjoy it.
Are you paying somebody else to do that? Because that's a lot of time.
I know, but we're going to do it little by little, episode by episode. And I mean, I am about to launch my Patreon in order to able to
Yeah.
afford this.
Then you can use the money from Patreon to pay
Yeah.
the. the person doing the translation. Yep.
Yes,
Good idea.
yes.
Good idea.
Yeah, so I'm actually working on that. And well, my next episode will be in English. It will be about, it will be another author talk. It's going to, a friend of mine wrote a book about, worked on a short novel called Into the Northern Lights. And it's the story of two guys, two best friends who, one of them is about to get married, and they decide to go visit, to travel all the way from El Paso to Canada to see to see the Northern Lights. But in the process, well, we explore their sexuality, and this is because one of them was in love with the other one, with the one getting married, and we explore their relationship as friends and as lovers, and it's very interesting. And the author himself is going to be in my show
Very
to talk
cool.
about the book. So be sure to tune in. We will try to make it spoilerless, but if in the event that a spoiler came out, don't worry. The story speaks for itself. So if you, I don't know if it's already translated in English, but if it isn't, I'm pretty sure that my friend is going to is actually looking into it right now.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the next week, next Friday at 8 p.m. Mountain Time
That's 10
is
p.m.
like
Eastern
10
for those
p.m.
who,
Eastern.
yeah.
Yeah, 10 p.m. Eastern. So be sure to tune in. I'll be around.
It sounds like a fascinating subject. Yeah.
It is. It
You're
is. It's
getting
a good
authors
book.
on. Like that's part of your channel's brand though, is to get authors on
Uh huh.
before their books even come out.
I'm sorry.
Before their books even come out.
Yeah, like we did with Chris. But this novel actually is already actually out there. You can find it on Amazon
Okay.
for Kindle. But I don't know if it's in English, to be honest. But
Fair
it's
enough.
in.
Fair enough.
Mhm. Yeah, so I'm gonna ask him if there is an English version of this story. But yeah, that's pretty
Yeah.
much it.
Very cool.
Hmm.
Last thing I need to remember to do is shout out my patrons. And yeah, Cecilia, get that Patreon going, man. Get that Patreon going. Here's
I
the
will.
thing. People, you have your people that follow you and love what you do. And they're
Hmm.
just like, we want to give you money to help you. Like, let them. Let it be part of the community, it's a community effort.
Hmm.
Let them be they're your producers at that point, executive producers.
Yeah.
Do it. Get on that. And speaking of which, got my own patrons that got a shout out. Our High Council consists of Lord John Bronsteen the Wise, Sixto Sounds, aka JP the Axe Grinder, as well as, of course, ridiculous Ed Tollett, probably getting off work right about now. Drive safe on the way home, Sean. And they are backed up by the lords and ladies of the realm, including Lady Leaf Underhill, Aemy Blackfyre, lover of poles, and Ryan Stavka, the Russian quartermaster. So thank you to our patrons. Um, really appreciate that you kick in to keep this whole thing running. Take some of the burden off of me. Really appreciate it. You guys are awesome. And you should know that it's not just me that benefits from it. It's also Nessie. It's also John. It's also Aemy Blackfyre. Um, they all use this same StreamYard account. So, and the Patreon pays for that. So we collectively thank you as well. And if you want to become a patron, links down in the description. Yeah, so moving on back to Cecilia. So before we started today, I got a message in my Slack group
Hmm.
from Aaron M, who is in the chat right now. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. She has quite a long, well thought out comment. But she was watching your stream about Justice League with with Aemy that I just mentioned a couple of times. Um, you touched briefly on Diego Luna as Cassian Andor
Mm-hmm.
and how that meant a lot to you for representation.
Yes.
But she says she thinks that you had more to say, and that would be interesting. She touched, yeah. Maybe more specifically about not only yes, he is a Mexican man, but like he doesn't check all the boxes to represent Cecilia. Mexican woman would be much closer.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm one of those people, like, I'm a white guy, and I'm a cishet white male in America. I have all the representation I can choke down. So
Yeah.
like I really love seeing characters that don't look like me, because for so long so many of them did.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but as a woman, as a Latina,
Mm-hmm.
what I guess, can you vocalize some of what that means to you, because we are starting to see that more and more and more.
Okay. Well, specifically about Diego Luna is because well, what I mentioned before. Even though I don't know him, he sort of feels like a friend, you know,
Hmm.
because of the way he talks in his interviews and the way that he speaks to his audience. But and because I have seen him in content since he was a boy. There was this telenovela called El Abuelo y Yo, Grandpa and I.
Hmm.
And he along Gael Garcia were in that telenovela, and they were children back then, and I watched that. And I watched that one. I mean, I did see telenovelas.
Sure, sure, sure.
I did see some
I
telenovelas,
was
and that
about to
was
say, liar, you said you didn't watch telenovelas,
no, I have,
and now you're
and that
telling
was
me you
one of
are. Flip the table. Ugh,
them.
I've been
Yeah,
lied to.
that was one of them. Actually, he was the villain of the telenovela. Diego, I mean, Gael Garcia was the protagonist, and Diego Luna was one of the villains, one of the evil kids. But yeah, so I've been watching his content for a long, long time. So watching him grab nail a job in in the Star Wars universe was huge for me, because I was like, I don't know, it felt like a friend of mine got a huge,
Right.
yeah, And well, one of the things that I actually like about him, and he shares that with Salma Hayek, which of course is also Mexican and was
Right.
one of the first Mexicans that we saw on Hollywood, well, contemporarily. Uh,
Right.
um, they share the fact that they I don't know if it's intentional, but their accent is very thick. It's quite evident.
Yes.
They I don't know if they over or I mean, I don't know if they exaggerate it in order to,
In
like
order
a,
to sound more exotic, maybe.
yeah, or as a statement, or as
Right.
a statement of I'm Mexican. Yes, I am Mexican. You know, uh, but one of the things that well, many Mexican Americans, I mean Mexicans in the U.S. were very well. They did appreciate a lot the fact that he didn't lose his accent being Cassian Andor, and that meant a lot for a lot of people, because usually people who don't speak English as their first language, well, we all have accent,
Sure.
and so many times we get criticized because of our accent. And well, obviously not every time, not from everyone. This doesn't come from everyone, but it is something that actually happens. And what I was saying to Aemy, actually, we were sharing this because she told me that she lost her southern accent. Um, we don't have to lose an accent because when we're speaking in English, because well, we learned a second language,
Right. Like
and we
when
don't
I'm
have to lie about who we are in
like
order to, yeah,
your
you know.
your English is much better than my Spanish. I'm sure I have a really weird accent in Spanish
Mm-hmm.
when I'm speaking Spanish, but like, if I get the words right, that's good enough, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
like your vocabulary is 10 times what my Spanish vocabulary is, or more. So like you're fluent in English. I am not fluent in Spanish.
Yeah. Well, I haven't listened to you speaking in Spanish. I
That's
wish.
because my donde está el hospital?
Mhm.
That's and then you could tell me which way to the hospital, and I could probably follow what you said. But
Mhm.
even then, like,
A conversation
right.
can
But
be
like, ¿cómo te va? Like I can say that. I
Mhm.
always feel like I sound like I'm saying it in with an fake Italian accent when speaking Spanish, and it drives me nuts, but I can't help it.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So, well, back to Diego Luna. Well, that's one of the reasons that he's very important for me in the Star Wars universe
Hmm.
and as an actor. But also, well, as a woman, I would love to see more representation from Latinas out there, and we can see it. There's of course Salma,
Hmm.
my beloved Salma. She's out there, and she's been for a while. And also, most recently, um, I just forgot her name. I'm awful with names, and my memory just sucks. But let me. What's the name? What's her
Patty
name?
says Sofia Vergara was amazing in
Oh,
Latin.
Sofia Vergara.
Yeah,
Sofia Vergara.
she's
She's
great, but
huge.
she's Colombian, not
She's
Mexican.
Colombian. Yeah,
But
she's
like she's
Colombian.
Latin for sure.
But yes, she's Latina, and she did something. I had a switch on the way that I saw Sofia Vergara before Modern Family, because up to that point she was famous. She was indeed famous, but she was famous for being a VJ or something on Univision, and she was, but got even more famous for being the girlfriend of our one of our most famous and celebrated singers in Mexico, which is Luis Miguel.
Okay.
And well, he has a type. He has a type of women that he likes, and Sofia Vergara is sort of like the type of women that he likes. So before Modern Family, I saw her as the ex girlfriend of Luis Miguel. You know,
Yeah.
like
Okay.
one of those overly handsome women who dated this guy. But then Modern Family came in, and turns out she's a tremendous comedian.
Yeah, she's very very funny
She's super funny, and I just
and
fell in love with her.
married to Joe Manganiello now, who
Uh-huh.
interestingly is a gigantic Dungeons and Dragons nerd. Joe Manganiello.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Well, didn't
I
know
know when
that.
they bought their house, she wanted to turn the basement into a wine cellar, and he said, "No, we're turning it into my Dungeons and Dragons room."
Mm-hmm.
He's like, "You
Asa
can have
Gon-
the whole rest of the house, but this room is mine for D&D." And I'm like,
El taca 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 dice says Leo. Taca 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 taca. Yeah, she's hilarious. Oh, I just remember the name of the actress, the Mexican actress that is out there in Hollywood right now, rocking it. Asa Gonzalez. She actually started in telenovelas also, and well, she's gorgeous, and she's
see that I'll know that we're getting closer when you don't have to be drop dead gorgeous to get a job in Hollywood as
mhm,
a Mexican or Latina actor.
yeah.
Like that's when you're casting somebody who isn't traditionally beautiful and got that really slim build, that's when I'll know, okay, that's the next step forward we need to make. Because yes, as you say, you will find Mexican actresses, but about every one of them, you're also saying they're beautiful, they're
Yeah.
drop dead gorgeous, and
Yeah.
like, I mean, it's a step, but there's still more steps to go.
Yeah, yeah, and actually, well, I hope that we see that we see that more often on screen, because on the big screen or the small screen, because well, when we talk about representation, well, most people immediately think of black people,
Right?
but well, life is not always black and white. There are a lot of of grays in between, and so is with skin color and the race. And you have Asians, you have Middle Easterns, you have Latinos, you have uh, I don't know, a lot of people that should be represented on screen, and but you usually get or either black or white, and that's not always fair. uh,
True. I mean, from an American standpoint, and again, like if you're talking about representation as it's spoken about in the context of Hollywood,
mhm,
like that traditional rift between black and white it's the short path to representation,
mhm,
but you're right. Like there are Sikhs and Muslims, Middle Eastern people, people from India. All of these people have their own stories and their own desire to be represented on the screen. And
mhm,
I love it when it happens that way. We've really gone down a rabbit hole with this one, haven't we?
mhm.
This all started from Aaron M sending me a message, sending me a DM. Thank you, Aaron. This was a really interesting little rabbit hole to go down. But if you will excuse me, I would like to shift gears, if that's okay, unless there's something you really want to say about this topic.
Oh, well, I just want to answer a question here in the chat from by Tony. He says, "What was the movie that had an indigenous Mexican actor as lead and won a bunch of awards?" It was Roma, by one of my favorite directors of all time, Alfonso Cuarón. And yes, the lead was an indigenous Mexican woman, Yalitza Aparicio, and she was amazing in her role. And I really and also, here's another group of people that is super misrepresented: the 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 native community in both in the US and the Mexican. And an interesting fact is that I do share blood, and indigenous blood, as well as white blood. And but the native part is both Native American and Native Mexican.
Okay,
Hmm.
very cool.
Yeah.
I do not. I took a DNA test and I'm a super white guy, like super white. But
Super white.
but I love you all, and you all are fantastic people. And but okay, not a lot of people know this. I write stories in my head all the time. I play D&D. I'm a dungeon master. I'm always generating stories and ideas, and it can be science fiction, and it can be a superhero story. I want a superhero story with a Mexican American girl who is somewhat overweight and struggling with her sexual identity. That's the superhero I want.
Hmm. That would be pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, she's got issues with her body image, and like, because it's a real story.
Hmm.
I want that. Give it to me.
Yeah.
All right, but I am going to like drag us back to a more fun, more nerdy conversation, if I may.
Yeah. Sure.
So what was the thing that made you look at yourself and be like, I need to start making content? I'm going to start a YouTube channel and talk about nerdy stuff, because I know what drove me to it, but I'm just curious, what was that journey like for you?
Actually, it's pretty fun. Well, as you know, I became a fan of Game of Thrones, a huge fan of Game of Thrones. And I spent a lot of time when my boy was born, my first kid. Well, I spent a lot of time breastfeeding, sitting with him
Mm-hmm.
attached to my boob, and I spent a lot of time sitting in that chair, in that rocking chair, and with nothing else to do but reading stuff on my iPad. And I started reading a lot about Game of Thrones and A Song of Ice and Fire. And suddenly my friends started asking me, okay, I didn't understand this thing on this episode. Could you please explain what happened to me? And I started explaining a lot to a lot of my friends what was going on with Game of Thrones. And eventually I said, you know what? Maybe I should just do whatever Emergency Awesome is doing, but in Spanish. And
Okay.
mhm.
I've never met Charlie, but like I've watched a lot of Emergency Awesome back when Game of Thrones was on. He did really great recap videos.
Mm-hmm. He
So you were
probably
just
is the
you
one
were
that.
this you were a Spanish. So your friends are just like, please explain, and you're like, I don't want to explain to 5 people. I'll just make a video and be like, watch this.
Exactly. That's exactly how it happened. That is exactly how it happened. I didn't know how to edit videos back in that day, but I learned. I'm a graphic designer, so I'm familiar with those sort of with that software. And so yeah, instead of explaining five different people in different times, I just did a video to explain all of them at the same time. And now that we're talking about Charlie, I think Charlie doesn't know how many people he got into Game of Thrones content making.
Maybe not. I mean, like I say, I stopped watching him a long time ago. You
Hmm.
know, sort of as my fervor for Game of Thrones cooled in the later seasons. I watched fewer and fewer videos about it. But like, I remember watching his stuff and being like, he's good at what he does
Hmm.
for sure. But you also have, you know, you are not the only Spanish language person to make content about Game of Thrones, not by any
No.
means. But like, I think as for the number of people that watched it that speak Spanish, like Juego de Tronos is a big deal. You're not just in the English speaking world, like people all over the world. So I can
Hmm.
imagine that if you are watching it in Spanish and you don't speak English, a Spanish language podcaster is the way to go for that.
Yeah.
And there were not a whole other. I don't know. I mean, I wasn't looking for it, but I can assume there's not people doing those breakdown videos in Spanish.
There is actually a couple of them were on my channel along with Val from
Hmm.
Because Geek. As you know, she's from Venezuela, and
Yep.
her first language is Spanish. So I invited her and two of the biggest reviewers of Game of Thrones in Latin America. Adolfo from Game of Thrones en Español. He's from Argentina, and Jack Duran. Jack Duran, he's from Tijuana, and he's actually one of the biggest reviewers of Game of Thrones out there in Spanish. Probably the biggest one is El Friki Doctor.
Pretty
He's
doctor.
the Freaky Doctor. He's a doctor. He's an actual doctor, an actual medic. But he loves making geeky content and his channel. He's probably the most famous one in Spanish. He's from Spain, and we were hoping to get him into our tiny little podcast from back then. But since he's from Spain, well, it's an
Like
it's
6
a
hour
huge,
difference.
yes, it's a huge hour difference. So it was going to be, it was problematic with the members that I already had, which was Adolfo, Val, Jack, and I, because Adolfo was in Argentina, and that's from the mountain time. He's an 3 or 4 hour difference depending on the season. And well, Jag is in Tijuana, which is Pacific
Pacific time.
time, and well, it was a huge difference. So it was going to be even more huge with Friki Doctor in Spain. So we
Yeah.
decided not to go for it. But it was only we only did 3 episodes, I believe. It was called The Brotherhood Without Banners, but in Spanish, La Hermandad Sin Estandartes.
Okay.
And it was pretty fun. And those are actually some of the subtitle videos that I have on my channel. uh, and yeah, we were discussing Game of Thrones, and well, the content that they do is pretty cool, especially the one that Jag was doing. He's no longer obviously doing Game of Thrones videos, as except for sometimes he does whenever some news about the new shows come out. But he has an alternative channel that he's doing with along with the San Diego Red or something like that. It's called, and he recently interviewed Jeffrey Dean Morgan
Nice.
from The Walking Dead. Yeah, yeah. So there are a lot of great.
See,
Spanish.
my claim to fame is I had Val on my channel
Mhm.
in the past too.
Mhm.
I have had this conversation. I know that nerd with her some time ago. Actually, I'm gonna look real quick. When was this? October 6th, 2019.
Mm,
So a year and a half ago, I did a I know that nerd with Val.
cool.
And like I say, she's been one like I made good friends with her at the 2018 Con of Thrones here in Dallas, and we've
Mhm.
been buddies ever since. She was also
She,
on to talk about The Witcher because I know she's obsessed with that.
yeah, we actually did an episode about The Witcher.
Yeah,
Uh, um, I don't know. I was going to be on those kind of thrones, but life happened.
yeah, life happens.
Life happened, and on the first one, which was going to be was in Nashville.
Nashville 2017.
Nashville. I got preggers on that
Yeah, I
one.
was gonna say El Bebé.
Yeah, my baby was the I believe the conference was in July, and my baby was due in August, so I was not going to be able to.
Yeah,
I wasn't going to risk giving birth to my baby
on an airplane
on an
or in
airplane,
Nashville.
or right in the middle of of a panel.
Right.
I no, no, not at all. So no, I decided to sell my ticket, and I wasn't able to go. And on the second Game of Thrones con, something else happened, because I don't remember what happened, but I was definitely going to go to that one because my sister was living in Dallas back at that time. So I didn't have any excuses, but I think something happened. Someone got sick in my family. I don't remember, but I wasn't able to go in the end. And so I really regret that, because
Yeah. I mean, get there if you can. Get there.
Mhm.
I can't wait. Like our whole crew, we've already got rooms booked and like making plans on when we're gonna do what. And yeah, get there. We'll have fun.
Yeah, I hope I hope to be able this time, because well, COVID is out there, but
Yeah,
Yeah, I really hope I can go to the next one.
You might be able to. It's not till August this year, and if you can get immunized by then, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of problem.
Yeah, I just hope that by that time I can actually get vaccinated. But yeah, that's going a little bit slow here in Mexico. So yeah.
Yeah, well, come to Con of Thrones, where all you're like, you'll know people. You'll
Yeah.
know people.
Hmm.
It's awesome. So, guys, we got less than half an hour left on this stream. So I'm going to throw it to the chat and be like, is there a question we haven't asked? I feel like there was one up above that I meant to grab and I missed it. But yeah, feel free to ask our lovely guest anything you like. If you guys are good people, you know what the limits are. Be nice. Don't ask her what
Hmm.
her address is or anything. Uh, but
um,
yeah, feel free to ask questions. But like I, for me, I started making content because I had things I wanted to say.
uh-huh.
Not the same journey you had.
Hmm.
Yours was people are asking me, and so I'm going to make my own format out of that,
Uh-huh.
which is, again, that's different from what I think I'm normally hearing. A lot of times people will tell me things like, I had something to add to the conversation
Hmm.
about nerdy, geeky, whatever. Patty's already got your address, huh?
Yeah, yeah, she's actually been a guest on my show a couple times, more than a couple times. I think about three
Yeah.
or four. Yeah, and I think it was just asking above about if I didn't want my baby to be born a native Congoer. Yeah, but let's just say, well, I I didn't want to risk a birth out of my budget.
Right, right.
Uh-huh.
Outside your healthcare network.
Yes. Well, my both my kids were born in El Paso, but
Okay.
that's very common here. And I mean, the people from Juarez give birth in El Paso, but we pay the whole thing. We pay the hospital, and we
Right,
pay.
right. You pay your
There
medical
are,
bills.
yeah, there are like special, I don't know how to say it, but like packages like for people from Juarez that go there because it's a huge business for hospitals in El Paso. So it mm, they do give us special pricing, but it's still expensive for us because, well, the Mexican peso to the US dollars is,
Not
well, the
great.
difference is not great. So giving birth in Nashville, Tennessee, with with a bunch of surrounded by a crowd, was not very exciting for me. So no.
Okay.
Hmm.
Well, Erin's got a good question.
Hmm.
She wants to know about the picture behind you of a lady in a nice dress.
Oh, that would be me on my quinceañera.
Okay, you know what? We're gonna blow that up just a little bit. Like, can we see again?
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know if you can see it.
Oh,
That's
look at
there on
you.
my fancy dress. You
Look
know,
at you.
that's,
You're a grown woman now.
yeah, yeah. Well, there's a thing with quinceañeras here. It's the purpose for quinceañeras was actually quite dark. It was the way to present young women on society, meaning you can now marry this girl. But then the tradition continued, but not on the same with the same purpose, but just you know coming of age or that kind of stuff. But I was actually not the kind of girl to get a quinceañera, but my mom actually wanted this to happen. And I was like, I don't care, so let's do it. So anyway, So yeah, that's me on my
Quinceañera picture.
that's
Nice.
my quinceañera picture. Yeah, that's one of the most
They still like it's very much a part of Mexican American culture still.
yeah. And well, in America, you have a similar thing, which is Sweet
Sweet
16.
16, but like the quinceañera amongst the Latin population in America is still huge.
Yeah.
Like there is a place down the road that sells formal dresses and it says bridal, quince, prom.
Uh-huh.
So getting married, going to the prom, quinceañera. Like
Hmm.
that's what they have dresses for. So
Yes.
big
So,
thing here.
is there a common Mexican story tale that you would like to see adapted for the broader world? Bonus points if it would make a great stage play or rewritten as a sci-fi fantasy animated. Oh my god. That's a tough question because I don't know. I don't know. Probably there is this very famous classical movie, Mexican movie, with a very famous actor, Pedro Infante, which was called Los ricos también. No, it was what? Nosotros los pobres, us the poor. And it's a very dramatic story about this guy who I don't remember, he was a boxer or something like that. He was very poor, and well, it's a series of unfortunate events basically. It's a huge drama, but it would be interesting for it to be adapted another another culture,
Mm,
or maybe even something a sci-fi reality where there's a dystopian reality or something like that. Because well, the drama is very real. It's a poor family that loses its members. I'm not gonna spoil it, but yeah.
right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, portraying that reality, that disparity of Mexican society on screen,
Right.
on the big screen, on like told in a way that everyone could relate to, would be pretty interesting because well, it's a very universal drama. I mean, in Mexico is a society where you have a bunch of rich people
And a bunch of poor
that,
people.
and a bunch of poor people, but the rich people is overly rich.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot of like that middle class. It's pretty narrow margin, isn't it?
Well,
Or maybe it depends on
you
which
could
middle class too.
say so. You could say so because well, the thing with Mexico, with Mexican society, is that people like me who belong to the middle class are often very unaware of the difficulties that the lower classes have. And this is not only for economic reasons, but also because of our skin color. As you can notice, I'm not white, but my skin color is pretty light.
Yes, you are very light skinned.
Uh-huh. Compared to many people in Mexico. So, and in the north, you don't have that uh, much. It is not that evident in the northern part of Mexico, because the northern part of Mexico was majorly populated by white people. Uh, because well, the weather is it's awful, and there weren't many in native people here.
I got you.
Uh-huh. So population in the northern part of Mexico is wider than in the southern part, but in the southern part and the central part is really evident that it's very much a universal fact that if you are light skinned, you are rich, and if you have dark skin, you are poor. So that difference is very radical. And
Right.
and sometimes you don't, if you belong to the middle class, you don't realize about what their struggles, about the racial discrimination
Right.
and that sort of stuff. So I would say that there, yes, there is a middle class, and it's a big
Okay.
part of Mexico, but the vast majority is poor.
Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah, I think in America we have a broader middle class, but it's shrinking steadily.
Hmm. Hmm.
Well, all right. Another great question from Tony. What books or movies first made you interested in the fantasy genre? And I think maybe you said this earlier when you brought up Lord of the Rings, but like I'll let you expand on that if you want.
Okay. Well, actually, it was anime. The thing that got me into this fantasy world. As I mentioned before, Saint Seiya, that's the name of the anime in Japanese. I think it's the way that Knights of the Zodiac is the way that it was commercialized in the US, I believe. I don't know. But yes, these were stories about people who had superpowers. Let's just say that like that, superpowers, and they just saved the world. And for some reason, they resonated with me. And yeah, that's the thing that actually got me into the fantasy world. And it later came Harry Potter, along with Lord of the Rings. And from that moment on, that's my world.
Okay.
and
I
and
mean, but that's a good answer.
mhm.
Like, I mean, Lord of the Rings does that to everybody, especially those movies. Like, I understand a lot of people love the books. Those movies really, like, they made fantasy cool, which it never
Mhm.
really was before.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
think there was another question that I let slip by. I don't know. We'll find it. If I missed your question, retype it and I'll try to catch it. So we're about 15 minutes from the end. So Cecilia,
Mhm.
I'm going to do what I failed to do with my last I Know That Nerd. I'm not going to do it again. We're going to talk about near the end. I like to ask the same three questions of everyone. Okay, you ready?
Okay. I'm ready.
We're going to make a movie about your life.
Oh. Okay.
Okay, who plays Cecilia? What actor would play Cecilia?
Hmm. That's an interesting one. Uh, well, my natural inclination would be picking a Mexican actress, right?
Please do.
I mean, well, she's not. She doesn't really look much like me,
But
but
she doesn't have to look like you. She has to capture your essence.
man, that's a hard one. Probably.
Yeah, me. I'm pretty
Yeah,
sure
yeah.
you want Pedro Pascal to play you as well.
Play Leo. Yeah, yeah. Let's let's get Pedro Pascal for Leo's role, and we'll probably get Cecilia Suarez for my role.
Oh, okay.
She's a great Mexican actress. She's not she has been in a couple Hollywood movies, but I don't recall which ones. I guess it was one of those with
Her name is Cecilia as well.
Suarez. 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 Suarez.
Okay, I'm just happening. I'm looking her up.
Uh-huh. She's older than me. She's older than me. But she's fantastic. She's a fantastic actress. She right now is pretty much the star of a Netflix series in Spanish that is called La Casa de las Flores, the House of the Flowers, which is basically a soap opera but with some comedic accents out there. And she is the character that everyone talks about because she's pretty peculiar and funny. And yeah, so I think she could be a good Cecilia.
Oh, I recognize her. She was in Spanglish.
Yeah, she was in Spanglish. Yes.
Yeah, I looked her up and I was reading over. She's been in a couple of things that I've seen. She did a voice
Hmm.
in Coco. I know that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, yeah, cool. Very cool.
Hmm.
I'll take it. So, who gets to direct this visionary masterpiece that is about Cecilia's life?
Oh man. Okay. Probably Alfonso Cuarón. I'm gonna go Mexican there.
Okay, I mean, I'm here for it. Alfonso Cuarón. I thought you might say my favorite Mexican director,
Guillermo del Toro.
Guillermo. Yes,
Yeah,
but
actually,
like
now that
we're not making a monster movie, so I understand.
we're not making a monster movie, but we are making a fantasy movie, and well, both would be good for the role, but I think Alfonso is more in tune to what I am.
Okay, it's a good
Mhm.
answer. It's a good
Mhm.
answer. And what are we calling this film? Like when Pedro Pascal is getting his Oscar nomination
Mhm.
for playing Leo.
For playing Leo. Ah,
What's the name of the movie? And I suspect it's something in Spanish.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Actually, it would be in English, and I'm going to tell you why. Since I'm from Juarez, I'm from the border.
Right?
Well, Spanglish is pretty much our lifestyle. So yeah. It probably would be something in English, but I just don't know. I just don't know. I would ask for Leo's help here.
Too bad
So
Spanglish is already taken as a film title, huh?
yeah, no, no. It wouldn't be Spanglish. It would be probably would be it would have to do something with being the black sheep, but not really being the black sheep, just a
Okay.
misunderstood person. I don't know. Maybe I just don't know. Maybe you have a
We'll work.
better
You know what, chat? You know what she's looking for. She wants something that's
tale of two
yeah,
cities.
thanks, Patty. That nobody's taken that title.
Uh-huh. A tale of two cities. Sailor Ceci.
Sailor Sailor Juarez.
Sailor Juarez. I don't know. Maybe also, or maybe it would have something to do with the desert here. The dunes. Obviously not Dune because well, that one is also already taken. But yeah, something like that. I don't know. I
Fair
don't
enough.
know. Yeah.
Fair enough. Like we don't need a real answer. I just like seeing where that conversation piece takes people. Makes
Mhm.
them think about who would play me in a movie.
Actually, well, I picked a Mexican actress because I'm Mexican, right? But I found out, like I've stated so many times before, I'm actually a little bit racially ambiguous. And sometimes I found that most of my doppelganger actresses are actually Asian.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I've seen most of the actresses that I see that actually look a little bit like me, they're Asian instead of Mexican, but which is a weird thing, but because I don't have any Asian blood as far as I remember, as far as I know, but I mean it's kind of weird. I think I think it has to do with the native blood that I have.
Yes, I do know that the people native to the Americas are most closely related to Far East Asians because of just
Mhm.
where they crossed the land bridge thousands of years
Mhm.
ago. Like that's where
Yeah.
they came from.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, but again, you don't need to find the person that looks just like you. You need to find the person that can act just like you.
Yeah, well, Cecilia Suarez is a good option
So
for that.
Cecilia
Hmm.
Suarez, it is.
Cecilia Suarez, it is.
Right, right. Okay, y'all. Last chance to get questions in. And Cecilia, I will say this has been a lot of fun. I
Hmm.
love doing I Know That Nerd. It's I say it every time. It's super easy. All I have to do is get in on and like ask you something and then follow up questions. It's really fun.
Mhm.
And super simple. Is there anything you would like to say to the people in these last few minutes as we're wrapping up? Something like, the floor is yours, so to speak.
Mhm.
And if not, I've got one last question for you.
Okay, shoot it.
Okay.
I'll say my thing afterwards.
No, by all means, please go first.
Oh, okay. Well, the one thing that I want to say is that I love running into this community. I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't certainly looking for it, but I'm really, really glad that it happened because it's always nice to have people from different backgrounds to talk about the things that we have in common that we love. So thank you so much for inviting me to that Coco to that Coco streaming. It was pretty fun, and so yeah, that's pretty much what everything that I wanted to say.
You have been a wonderful addition to the crew, I must say.
Thanks.
Like, and you're not on social media as much as some of the rest of us, but it's always a delight when I get to hang out with you. Leonard, Leo, you're a lucky man. You picked a good one. Okay, so my final question is getting like people are talking about it in the chat a little bit. There is a taco a sandwich? Is a hot dog a taco? The real question is a hot dog a sandwich? But you know what? Is a taco a sandwich?
It's not.
Is a
It's
hot is a
it's a
hot dog?
dumpling. It's a
Okay,
dumpling.
it's a
Yeah,
dumpling. Wow,
it's
that's
a
a hot take.
dumpling. Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I love watching foodie shows. That's one of the things that you guys didn't know about me. I love foodie shows. I love. Oh, Leo says here that he's super lucky
Yeah, I
because
can see
I
he's playing
chose
the guitar
him.
and looking down. You must have taken this picture like right after you walked in that first time. He saw you, he looked away, and he's going on the
Yeah,
guitar. I got
that's pretty much how it happened. That's pretty much how it happened. But I gotta say that I'm a lucky girl as well for finding him.
I'm sure.
So what was I saying? Oh, the taco being a dumpling. Yeah, most cultures have a version of a meal that is inside something else that is easy to carry and easy to eat with your mouth, with your fingers, hold with your fingers. So yes, a taco is a dumpling.
But is a hot dog a sandwich?
A hot dog is a sandwich, indeed.
Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
confirmed. Hot dog, sandwich, taco, not sandwich, taco dumpling.
Mm-hmm. Taco is a
I'm
dumpling.
glad we worked this out. Like these are the important questions that I like to these
Yeah.
conversations out with.
And I have something else to say.
Okay.
That is, if any other Mexican that is from the center and south, I have to say something and say something that, I mean, I want it to be very clear. Burritos are Mexican food. Burritos are Mexican food because there is a common misconception among Mexicans that burritos are a US invention, and they are not. Burritos were born in my beloved city, Ciudad Juarez.
Which is very close, but it's
Yes,
Mexico, not America.
exactly. So yeah. And burritos are tacos.
Yes, they are. Like
Mhm.
like I didn't realize that they were the same thing for the longest time because uncultured swine, but Taco Bell tells me a taco is shaped, like this, and then a burrito is fully wrapped. But then you start getting, I have been educated. Tacos and burritos are the same darn thing, if you ask me.
Yes, yes, they are. And but obviously burritos are on flour tortillas, and tacos are on corn tortillas.
Okay, there you
Yeah,
go. Well, all right, one last
chili
question.
beans, chili beans or not? I think they are, aren't
Yeah,
they? Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Like, yeah. I mean, as a Texan, I have thoughts about chili. It's not quite our national food, but it's up there.
The Tex-Mex. It's Tex-Mex.
Tex-Mex is a real like
Hmm.
subgenre.
Hmm. A good subgenre.
I love it.
Often,
Oh, I love
often
Tex-Mex.
it is often unappreciated, especially for Mexican people. But as a person living in the border, I can truly preach for Tex-Mex food.
As a Texan, I also will like Tex-Mex is good stuff.
Yeah, and there is
But it's
another
not, but
Tex-Mex.
it's not Mexican food. There's a difference.
No, no, yes, exactly, indeed, indeed. And there is another Tex-Mex jewel out there that is not food, but it's music.
Okay.
Her Majesty Selena Quintanilla.
Oh yeah, Selena.
Selena,
I
yeah,
mean, like,
Selena, yeah.
it was never my scene, but like I remember,
Hmm.
like, didn't J Lo get famous off of playing her?
Yes, indeed. Yeah,
Yeah.
she actually nowadays she still sings a song about Selena song on her concerts as a tribute
Right.
because
And why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you pay homage to your heroes?
yeah,
Good for her. All right. Well,
yeah,
you guys, it's 8 o'clock Eastern now, and um, that's 2 hours. Cecilia, it flew by. I had a blast.
me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be twisting your arm again in the future to have you just come talk about a nerdy topic that's not you. But
I, I I feel kind of weird a little bit, to be honest. The topic was about me, but yeah, I love
well,
it.
that's what this whole series is about. And
Uh-huh.
you've joined some true luminaries from the fan community. And you've made it when you've been on I Know That Nerd. Anyway, but in all seriousness, I really do appreciate you coming on. This was a fun conversation.
It was. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you all for watching and sending your questions and your comments and appreciating what this not so young Mexican girl has to say.
Yep. Well, it was a pleasure to have you. And also, Leo, nice to meet you. I recognize that I had seen him before. Just not a regular, but like when that picture comes up and he's playing the guitar, I'm like, I do recognize. Yep, yep. I've seen you before, Leo. So thanks for joining us for this really fun conversation. So one more time, real quick, here at the end, tell the people what's coming up on Geeksterilia. Oh, by the way, if you want to follow her YouTube channel, follow her Twitter. Both of those links are down in the description. You should do both of those things. Unless you're not on Twitter, then But yeah, link to her YouTube channel and Twitter in the description. And tell everybody what's coming up.
Okay, well, coming up, as I mentioned before, during the roll up, I have a future this Friday. I have a future author talk about a novel that is called Into the Northern Lights of author Angel Valenzuela, and it's a story of two friends, two best friends that are on a road trip from El Paso to Alaska to Canada. The goal was reaching Alaska, but they ended up just going into Canada. And the journey is that one of them is going to get married, and the other one, and he wants to ask his best friend to be the best man. But turns out that the best man is completely in love with the groom. So they embark into this road trip filled with humor and uh, homoerotic content. So yeah,
Okay.
it's pretty it's a pretty cool novel. It's very short. I don't recall if it's already translated onto English, but it's going to be an English episode because well, he's also from here from Juarez, and he's been living in Mexico City for a while, and he misses speaking English to someone else. So
Okay. Cool.
that's
Well,
pretty much the main reason why we're going to do this in English.
tune
But
in
yeah,
and tune in for the next English language podcast.
episode
I'm gonna
this next Friday at 10 p.m. Eastern time.
and I will be
And
there eating a burrito along with Jess.
yes, yes, please. If you one day come to Juarez, we will make you eat one of my favorite burritos, which is the chile relleno burrito. I just ate one a couple hours
Relleno.
ago. hmm And you're welcome to come to Juarez, the most fabulous and gorgeous border in the world, according to our most famous artist from Juarez, which is Juan Gabriel, legendary song singer and writer Juan Gabriel.
Sounds like a blast. I'm there.
He is a blast. He was, well, he passed away, but he is a legend, and legends never die.
True. True
Mhm.
fact.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that ought to be real interesting. I will probably be there in the chat. Like,
Uh-huh.
yeah, it ought to be a good time. And next week on Here Be Dragons, come back, and we'll be talking about season 3 of Star Wars: The Clone Wars. So you've got about a week to catch up and finish season 3. It ought to be a good time. We had fun the first couple of times, and don't forget we also have in early May we've got the 100th episode celebration coming up,
Woo!
where it's just going to be me, John, and Nessie talking about our memories and our fun times, and letting our friends ask us whatever they want, and giving away a whole bunch of really good swag in the meantime. So yeah,
100 episodes. Wow.
yep, yep, yep.
Awesome.
Are you at 100 yet?
No, actually, this would be the next Friday episode will be my 44th
Okay,
of the podcast,
right.
but there's
Because
a
you've been
whole lot
doing,
of
you've been
bunch
doing
of
recap
content.
videos before that.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I know you've
indeed.
been at it for a while, but
Mm-hmm.
still,
Mm-hmm.
very cool, very cool. Well, I hope to see you guys in the chat section over on Geeksterilia Friday, and I hope to see you all back here next Sunday. And yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank
Um,
you.
really appreciate everyone who's here live. I also appreciate everyone who watches later, but just not quite as much. You should be here live. I'd appreciate you just that much more, just that little bit much more. But seriously, thank you, everyone. I had a great time. I'll see you all next week. And until next time, you know what it is. Peace and be excellent to